A father stands over his sleeping son, knowing his wife just made a choice that could erase every memory that little boy will ever have. This is Silo Season 3, Episode 7, and by the end of it, two men will walk outside the silo for the very first time in their lives. Before anything else happens in this episode, we get a quiet moment that says more than any big reveal could. Robert Sims is standing over his son Anthony's bed, just watching him sleep. It's a small scene, but it lands hard once you remember what just happened right before this episode picked up. Camille, his wife, has already made her move. She's put the memory-erasing drug into the drinking water of Silo 18. Robert knows it. And in a few minutes, he's going to get that fact confirmed directly. So this opening isn't just a sweet father-son beat. It's a man looking at his kid and knowing that everything about to unfold could take away the only life that child has ever known. What makes this episode work so well is that it doesn't forget about the people who have no idea any of this is happening. Anthony is one of them. He's just a kid dealing with kid problems. He got into some trouble at school. He's noticed his parents fighting more than usual, and can't figure out why his mom is suddenly working around the clock. And somehow, in the middle of a silo-wide crisis involving mass forgetting and a hidden war between factions, his biggest concern is not looking ridiculous in his jacket for picture day. It's almost funny how normal his worries are, and that contrast is exactly the point. Nearly everyone in this silo is walking around blind to the chaos happening just underneath their daily routines, and Anthony is the perfect stand-in for that entire population. Robert doesn't stay in the dark for long, though. After leaving his son, he gets word out to Juliet about something that confirms just how serious this has become. Guards have shown up outside the water filtration station. To anyone who understands what that means, it's basically an announcement that the drug is already flowing through the pipes. This detail pays off in a strangely funny way later in the episode. Carla, stressed and distracted, almost fills a glass from the tap out of pure habit before catching herself at the last second and dumping it out. It's a small moment, but it captures the tension everyone now has to live with. Something as basic as drinking water has become dangerous. At this point, the people who actually know what's going on split into two camps, and neither side is backing down. Camille believes she had no choice. In her mind, moving first on the water was the only way to stop something worse from happening, some kind of automatic safeguard she's convinced is coming. On the other side, the resistance has a different plan entirely. If they can find and cap the pipe carrying the poison, the same way it was done back in Silo 17, they think they can cut off whatever control this so-called safeguard has over them. Two very different responses to the same fear, and both sides are now racing against a clock that started the moment that drug hit the water supply. While all of this tension is building behind the scenes, Juliet is setting something in motion at the sheriff's station. She brings in Lucas and Patrick Kennedy and tells them flat out that she's sending them outside. Watching these two together is honestly one of the more entertaining dynamics in the episode. Kennedy, despite being the one who originally pushed for this mission and even gave his group a name, suddenly doesn't seem all that invested once it's actually happening. Lucas, on the other hand, catches on immediately to what Juliet is really trying to do. The official story is that they're heading out to search for missing kids. The real mission is to locate exactly where the poison is entering the water system. Since every silo shares the same layout, Solo's blueprints give them a real shot at finding that pipe, which is the same thing Solo himself was quietly trying to do back when he returned to the mines after the uprising. Lucas wants to go. He's practically been waiting for this. Kennedy, surprisingly, has lost his nerve. This is a man who has apparently already seen the cleaning footage and knows the outside world isn't the wasteland everyone's been told it is, yet now that he has the chance to actually go out there, he doesn't seem to care anymore. His interest was never really about discovering the truth. He agrees to help get Lucas over to Silo 17, mostly because it's safer to have two people in case something goes wrong, and once that's done, he wants to be free to go wherever he wants, as long as it isn't back underground in another hole. Inside the station, Jerry proves once again that he's someone Juliet can count on, which makes the way she used him back in episode 2 sting even more in hindsight. He passes along a message from Sims and gets sent to track down Danny so they can shut off the camera feed and keep this whole operation hidden. That's when Juliet finally gets her private moment with Robert, the one where he warns her not to drink anything but bottled water. According to what Bernard has told him, the drug takes effect almost immediately, which means the window to act is already closing fast. Robert also lets her know that Camille has people watching him, both in person and through the cameras, so any contact between them from here on has to stop completely. As he walks away, Juliet calls out and tells him to be careful, a small line that says a lot about how much the loyalties in this story have shifted this season. Patrick Kennedy, for his part, hasn't changed much. He's still difficult, still tends to run his mouth, and there's a genuinely enjoyable running joke of Walker shutting him down every single time he opens it. But then the show gives him a quieter moment, one where he's remembering his late wife just before heading out, and suddenly it's clear the show wants you to worry about him. That instinct that something bad might happen to him hits harder than expected, mostly because the show has spent real time this season making these characters, Kennedy included, feel like people worth caring about, not just names on a mission roster. Juliet doesn't waste time once she learns what's happening with the water. She heads straight back to the sheriff's station, where suit technicians are already prepping Lucas and Kennedy for departure. Walker walks them through how they'll stay in contact by radio. They work out a basic code system together, run a final check on their suits, and send them out the door. It happens fast, almost jarringly fast for something that, under any normal circumstance, simply never happens in this world. And as things play out, that urgency, that warning Robert gave about the water, ends up being the reason anyone survives what's coming next. What follows is one of the strongest sequences of the season so far. Lucas and Kennedy step outside and see the world for the first time in their lives. Walker stays on the radio while everyone back in the silo watches through the screen, though it's still too dark to make out much. The first thing Lucas notices is the stars, and he's completely overwhelmed by them. Kennedy has the opposite reaction. Seeing the outside world in person confirms his worst fear, that it really is as dead and empty as the screens back in the cafeteria always showed. Relying on the radio instead of a clear visual creates this strange, powerful distance, forcing you to imagine what this moment actually feels like for two men who have never known anything beyond concrete and steel. That same radio link also keeps everyone back inside on edge, waiting helplessly for updates once the pair moves out of sight over the hill. Then it happens. A strange buzzing sound cuts through the radio, something neither of them recognizes. They ask if anyone back in the silo can hear it too. Seconds later, gunshots ring out. The last clear thing anyone hears is Lucas screaming for them to run, followed by more screaming, and then silence. The radio goes dead. For a few seconds, nobody inside the silo fully understands what just happened. All they know is that someone or something was out there, and it was armed. There's no time to process it properly. Juliet knows she has to stay behind and face Camille directly, so she orders everyone else to scatter and disappear before questions start getting asked. When Camille finally makes it into the vault, the voice tells her that Lucas and Kennedy have been neutralized. That word choice is strange because based on everything we just heard over the radio, it's not entirely clear that's actually true. The algorithm, however, isn't interested in giving a straight answer. Instead, it turns the moment into a lesson. We learn that Camille has already seen the unedited footage from when Juliet was sent outside originally, the version that shows just how many bodies are piled up around the entrance of Silo 17. It's not just a few people. It looks like an entire silo's worth of dead. When the voice asks Camille what that could possibly mean, she puts it together herself. Somehow, a safeguard was avoided, at least for a little while. But the key word there is momentarily. The voice uses that exact detail to hammer home its real point. A safeguard cannot be stopped forever. Whatever failsafe exists apparently has its own backup failsafe built in. This starts to explain, at least partly, what actually happened to the people of Silo 17 after they left in that earlier flashback we saw. We already knew from Solo that they didn't all die instantly. Yet we've watched people leaving Silo 18 collapse almost immediately. And now we've just seen Lucas and Kennedy get away, using the cover of darkness and the element of surprise. But years ago, when thousands of people from Silo 17 left all at once, in broad daylight, with no surprise on their side at all, they never had a chance. The pieces are there, but the full picture is still missing, and that gap is clearly intentional, setting up something bigger down the line. In the chaos right after, the algorithm wastes no time using Camille's fear against her. It plants the idea that Juliet is actively working to stop the safeguard from happening, and it sends Camille straight to her to find out what's really going on. If the earlier scenes between Robert and Camille felt intense, this next confrontation is built to top them. It starts as a tense but fairly normal exchange through Juliet's cracked front door, Camille pushing to find out what the real plan actually is. Then she asks Juliet directly if she knows what happened out at Silo 17, and that's when the temperature in the scene changes completely. Camille has a gun hidden behind her back. Juliet is gripping a pistol behind the door, out of sight. Neither one pulls the trigger, but the tension in that hallway is doing all the damage anyway. At one point, Camille doesn't even bother pretending the suit failure was an accident, casually admitting that's just what happens when you rush a job. Juliet fires right back, saying maybe they should have given the tech more time to make the suits actually bulletproof. Guns stay holstered, but there's no mistaking that shots were fired in every way that counts. Just when you think the episode is staying locked into the present timeline, it jumps somewhere else entirely, and this shift lands right after the credits roll, picking up exactly where the previous episode left off. We're back in the mysterious hangar, and one of the first faces we see is Charlotte. Daniel is furious when she tells him she can't explain what she's doing there. He immediately goes after the doctor with her, only to be interrupted by the arrival of paperwork, specifically non-disclosure agreements, which understandably doesn't sit well with two people who just had their car hijacked to get here. Senator Thurman tries to smooth things over, promising that once they sign, they'll be flying out and will know everything by the following day. Anna quickly reminds them that knowing everything doesn't mean they'll be allowed to tell anyone. That's when we finally meet the man everyone's been talking around, a tech billionaire who barely looks up from his phone as he casually mentions that, since they're government lawyers, breaking this agreement could land them somewhere like Guantanamo Bay. Everything about how he enters the scene, the disinterest, the unnecessary self-introduction, even though everyone already knows exactly who he is, paints the picture of someone used to being the most powerful person in any room. That impression only gets stranger when he tells a story about another billionaire once offering him an absurd amount of money to kill off a genetically engineered unicorn project he was working on. It's hard to tell if he's joking or bragging, though it leans more toward the latter. He lays out the choice simply. Sign the agreement and learn the biggest secret in the world, or walk out now, get back in their beat-up minivan and know nothing. He sweetens the offer with money, starting around $100,000 and eventually pushing toward $1 million. Daniel makes it clear he doesn't care about any of that. He just wants answers about his sister. Charlotte tells him she signed for the exact same reason. She wanted to understand what happened to herself, and that's enough to convince him. Helen, meanwhile, wants to know when she'll actually be allowed to write about any of this. Thurman tells her no more than 5 years, hopefully sooner, and makes it clear this isn't dramatic exaggeration. This really is about saving the world. That's all it takes for Helen to sign as well. Once they're airborne, Charlotte opens up to Daniel about what she's slowly getting back. She remembers almost everything up until the moment she climbed into her plane. After that, it's a blank, something locked away somewhere she can't access. She knows the facts of what happened. She knows the mission went badly. But emotionally, it feels distant, like it happened to somebody else entirely. She credits Victor with helping her recover this much, and Daniel doesn't hesitate to point out the obvious problem with that gratitude. Victor is the same person who made her forget in the first place. It's a small moment, but it shows a flicker of the old Charlotte still fighting to get through.